speaking of extrication and reassessments, you and I were both at an event last night at the Ned where we saw one Nigel Farage.
Yes.
What is your assessment, as it were, of Farage's future? He did succeed in propelling Great Britain's severing its ties with the European Union. Mm-hmm. And now he appears to be administering a thrashing to the Tory party. Where is Farage headed?
I think Farage is the most important British politician since Margaret Thatcher. And you're right, without him and his charismatic performance, the Brexit camp would never have won the referendum. And without his subsequent actions, the Conservative Party would not have followed through, because it really didn't want to. And he is now, as it were, bringing the revolution home to Westminster by now launching an assault directly, really, on both the Tories and Labour, on the whole political settlement. He is a brilliant performer. He illustrates one of the truths that we've learnt about populism, that it is an attitude, a performance, and it can be delivered with great sincerity, and I don't doubt his sincerity at all in this regard. But it is not a program, and it is not about institutions and policies, which are the boring means by which political talk gets converted into action, which actually then leads to a change in the political system. And he is talking about a change in the political system. His party is just running ahead in the polls. A couple of weeks ago, in late August, for the first time, a poll found that Reform, his party, are polling more than Labour and the Tories combined. And in British politics, if you can get over 35% of the vote, then you're pretty much assured of a landslide. And at the moment, he's polling at that level. I don't believe he's yet hit the maximum ceiling. And he would have a huge majority if an election were held tomorrow. But it won't be held tomorrow. The Labour government is secure until 2029 at the latest. They could be forced by events to jump sooner. But
so there could be what William F. Buckley liked to refer to as a eutectic moment in Great Britain.
Yes, I think that means total chaos is actually how that translates, because you could have a situation where a party which is really a one-man band, which doesn't yet have a candidates list and has nobody in it with any experience of government, could be given the reins of a major state at the moment when its economy is going over the cliff and its borders have collapsed and the people are a tinderbox of outrage.
It is a testament to how volatile the situation is, isn't it?
Yes, it is. And I could easily foresee a situation where the Reform and Farage have the largest share, go into a coalition with the Conservatives, make such a mess of it that they effectively collapse. And there is no second Farage. There is no. It's different to how in the US, obviously there's no second Trump, but it's clear how the policies and institutions are starting to carry this great wave of populist demand for change. It's starting to be processed in the way that you're seeing in NatCon. Things are recognizably the same, but you can clearly see they've changed and adapted. Look at how the Republican Party has become a popular workers' party, when it used to be called the Golf Club Party, in the age of George W. Bush, for instance. That kind of shift hasn't happened in Britain. And so things could quite quickly go chaotic, actually.
Trump does like to golf.
Well, FDR and Hitler both liked watercolor painting, as did Churchill. But I suppose beyond that, the three of them might have disagreed about quite a lot. And at the moment, Farage and the Conservative Party are still officially disagreeing quite a lot. So you don't have a unified right against a state and a ruling party that everyone in Britain seems to detest. And so this is a real state of political dysfunction. And the process that began in 2016 with this referendum, I believe is now reaching its crisis point. This could have been handled much earlier, 2017, 2019, but the state and the Conservative Party, which was given the job of doing this, both resisted it, slow-walked it, tried to undo it. And the result is a decade later, you're looking at a sort of popular uprising, effectively, is taking place against the British system, led by a man who, as I said, does not have the program or the experience or the team to actually translate all of that into a political program.
Final question. We must come back to Ukraine.
Yes, keep doing
which is
yes.
a big issue for the government in Great Britain.
Yes.
A big issue for Donald Trump, who entered office vowing that he would solve the conflict in 24 hours. Now Putin appears to be stiffing him, will not meet with Zelensky. The Ukrainians are producing 40% of their own weaponry at this point. They are close to producing long-range missiles on their own. They want to transform themselves into a porcupine. What is your assessment? Where is this conflict headed for Europe in the next year? It seems to show no signs of attenuating. Instead, it is very reminiscent, is it not, of World War I, where both sides are dug into trench warfare, and there appears to be little movement.
It is, and we'll be lucky to see it ended in 24 months, I think. I think obviously 24 hours was the salesman, Trump, but Trump, the strategist, knows perfectly well that his ultimate goal is to try and bring Russia back into the westwards export of its energy rather than the eastwards.
But
export.
Russia appears to be moving close.
It is, and that's part of Putin's,
China and
part of,
India.
Yes, it is, yeah. And this is a serious problem for the United States.
Isn't Putin really on the warpath against the West? His sense of aggrievement that he believes that
this is all absolutely the case. Yes.
That the West was culpable for the dissolution of the Soviet Union, and his mission is to resurrect as far as possible the Russian Empire, if not the Soviet one.
Yeah, it is, and the implications of that are a cascade of violent disorder and war that would be
jamming von der Leyen's plane, sabotage.
Yeah, well,
in Europe.
How the Russians always roll.
Yeah.
I mean, the implications of that are so bad that it's imperative that the West makes a very clear line, which I think has been drawn in Ukraine, but also makes a very clear line, you can't have any more of this. And the militarization of Ukraine is a good thing for the West in this regard, and so is the strengthening, say, the defenses of Poland. I have my doubts about whether it was wise to extend NATO's defensible borders so far to the north, given the state of the Swedish military in particular, but we are where we are with it. Again, if you were an optimist, you would say that the principle of that has been established and you now have to deliver on it actually in real terms. You actually have to get Germany delivering on its promises to start taking military spending seriously. You have to push the British and French and the Germans as well to make a choice between guns and butter. And since 1945, they've been big on butter and much less so on military production. That is a cultural shift, and it's also a technological challenge. It's also, if you like, an export opportunity for American defense manufacturers. Ukraine is going to be partitioned. We know that because one side or the other is not going to be able to force a complete victory, one or the other. And again, a Western Ukraine that is heavily fortified, capable of defending itself, is a very useful thing. It's
essentially a buffer state.
Yes, and it would be good also if Russia can claim that it too has a buffer, then that reduces the possibility of further conflict. It doesn't remove it entirely. I think we have to remember that.
I think Ukraine would become quite a dynamic economic power as well.
There's no reason why it shouldn't. They're very good at technology and internet-related activities, after all. But actually, Ukraine could emerge as the first European state to have taken seriously the long-running requests that ran across the Obama administration, Trump 1, Biden and Trump 2, that the Europeans actually take their own defense seriously and look after their own affairs. Rather like the Israelis, the Ukrainians could emerge as this kind of valuable asset capable of actually holding the line on their own.
Now Putin enjoys things like jamming EU Commission President Ursula von der Leyen's plane as it attempted to land, I think, in Romania. But is it actually counterproductive? Does it actually jolt the Europeans out of their complacency and make them realize that
that sort of thing,
playing around?
That sort of thing doesn't. I believe it doesn't. And this is one of the things that's always perplexed me. If you read about wars, how to start them, how to end them, there's a sort of legal threshold at each end of this. And the idea of the casus belli, the cause for war, is when someone does something which is an obvious transgression of your territory or rights.
The M's dispatch with Bismarck.
If they close your, the naval access point. So all of these things, sabotaging, poisoning people, sabotage, blocking communications, all of them, if you were so inclined, would be a casus belli. But no one ever takes them as that, because you would have a world at war all the time because of it. And I think the Europeans are probably so used to this stuff from the Cold War era, when that was just daily service, that weirdly enough, it's not the kind of thing that they take seriously. And that's one of the reasons, I believe, why the situation has arisen in the first place. Well, Russia got a series of amber lights where people would say, that's not nice, you really shouldn't. But no real action was taken, and thus Putin figured he could make what Joe Biden called at the time a limited incursion. Well, there was a sense that Russia can make limited incursions of other people's sovereignty, and it doesn't really matter. The whole system will sort of stay in balance. And Putin, who is a smart man as well as a wicked one, exploited that very cleverly.
Well, thank you, Dominic, for coming on. Until next time.
Always a pleasure. Thank you, Jacob.